Houston, I think we have a problem. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Chris, this is 4K Motoring, and we are still having issues with our Ducati Multistrada V4 brakes. Those of you that are V4 owners, please let me know what yours feels like, and if I'm a little bit out of touch. I am a little bit dissatisfied with the overall brake feel from my front lever for the brakes of this Multistrada V4. This is a 2022 model. I previously had a 2015 Multistrada that also had the cornering ABS module. It wasn't self-braking like this new radar system is, so I'm guessing it's a slightly different system internally, but it was still a sophisticated ABS system, and the front brake feels always had, you know, very high pressure, very quick build up, and felt very responsive. This has the same 330 mil front, although on a 19-inch tire. It's got the Brembo style Lima calipers, same as the M50s, basically just a more modern version, and it's still got the Brembo master cylinder. My problem is, after about a month after I bleed it, I come back to it and my initial pull comes back to the lever, and it builds. If I pull it a couple times and pump it, it definitely builds up to where it's supposed to be. But to me, that's indicative of air in the lines. Whenever you have that brake build, usually it's air related. And I have bled this brake system at least half a dozen times at this point, getting to the point I want to have a nice firm brake lever feel. And about a month later, I'm left with this squishiness. I don't know if it's an internal thing, if this is just the way this bike is because it has the sophistication that it does and this is just how it's supposed to feel on this bike. Again, if you guys have one and this is the way yours feels too, let me know and I might be wasting my time here. But to me, this does not feel the way I'm used to, and it does not give me a whole lot of confidence when stopping. Something I'd really like and expect with these massive high performance brakes, I'd really like to be a little bit sharper. So as you can see, we just put our new Road 6 on the front as well. We do have now a matching set front and rear. What I've found before is that the caliper on the left side of the bike, front brake caliper, that's the one I found that bleeding this seems to do the most for me as far as restoring that brake lever pressure. Again, I don't know if it's a leak here. There's no fluid coming out here, so it's definitely not fluid leaking out. I don't know if somehow through the caliper itself it's letting some air in. I don't know. Again, there's no fluid that ever leaks out. I don't know if it's something with the rear, with the link braking system. This is so complex. There are so many ways that air possibly could get in the line that I really don't know where to begin. I'm gonna go ahead and bleed this again and kind of show the difference just so I can get this on record of the brake lever travel before I bleed it and after I bleed it, just to see with time if it gets back to the way it is and see if there truly is a problem with this bike. So this is probably not going to be the best angle for you guys, but I'm going to go ahead and lay out this ruler, and I'll go right to this edge, the leading edge of this handguard, so we're in the same spot every time, and we can see the tip of this brake lever right now, from my perspective, is right about the 4-inch mark. When I squeeze it back, it's coming back to, we'll say the leading edge is at the 1-inch mark, so it's basically touching the handguard right now. If I pump it a couple times, it comes back to about the 2.5 mark. So you see there's a big difference in that. And that's what I'm hoping to kind of restore that initial pull to be back, you know, in that 2.5 mark maybe for a full pull. So when it comes to bleeding the brakes on this bike, really all you need, at least for the front, is just an open-ended 8mm. And there's a couple different types of these wrenches. Some are really better for this than others, but it's really just an 8mm bolt that you have to get out, the banjo bolt. So we're going to use that, and you need some sort of fluid extractor. Now, this is a very easy system to do, kind of the pump and hold method if that's what you want to do. If you want to use a vacuum extractor, that's fine too. This is my favorite brake bleeder kit that I've ever tried, and I've had a couple different ones. I've used the Mighty Vac for a while, as you can see the Mighty Vac there. But this little extractor right here is superbly built. All the fittings on it are really nicely made. It comes fully attached, and it works really well. I'll leave a link to that in the description below. It is worth noting, you do have one bleeder screw on both calipers towards the inner edge, and then you do have, for the front system, one right by the master as well. And as I did last time, I also bled the rear caliper, which our fluid reservoir is right here by the motor, our rear master is right down here, and if we travel back to our rear master cylinder, that's where the bleeder screw is for it. Per the manual of this bike, it is rated for a .4 fluid. I always use the Valvoline Synthetic .3.4 brake fluid. Seems to work for pretty much every application. I just keep a lot of this on hand. So we're gonna use a fresh bottle, a fresh sealed bottle. As you can see, we have a nice clear master cylinder now. It's not tarnished, dirty, and it's not really low. And I've never really seen it get low. So again, I don't think we're leaking fluid. I think air is just coming in. So we're gonna go ahead, I'll go ahead and bleed this. We will have to turn the compressor on. It's gonna make an annoying noise. I won't make you guys suffer through that, but we're gonna go ahead and bleed this full system and see how it turns out. So if I didn't say it before, I absolutely love this little vacuum bleeder. Super easy to use, really well made, and it works great. It's got great vacuum for the size. I'm absolutely impressed by it. So getting to the bike, I've gone ahead and I have bled the front brakes, both calipers, and the top bolt. And I went ahead and bled the rear brake caliper. This is an 11 millimeter as opposed to the 8 millimeters for the front. One thing kind of interesting I did find is that with this rear caliper, I know I said I hadn't found anything wet or leaking. When I pulled the little rubber nipple off of this bleeder screw here on the rear caliper bolt, it was really wet with brake fluid underneath it. Now, I don't know if that's just left over from the last time I used it, last time I bled it, or what happened specifically, but it was pretty wet. It wasn't dripping down the caliper, but underneath that rubber cap, it was very wet. So I've gone ahead and I made sure I really dried it off before putting it back. I made sure everything that was in the top of the banjo bolt was dried out, that everything, once this was closed off, was dry. There was no brake fluid on it. So next time when I check it, I can see if that's an ongoing issue. What we have is a pretty substantial upgrade. This is as far back as it comes. Obviously, about an inch away from being back to the grips, which is unlike before. And if I pump it a couple times, there is no discernible change while pumping it, which tells me there's no air buildup, and that's what I was hoping to get out of this bike. It still doesn't quite have the same firmness that my old 2015 Multistrada did, but this is at least a very consistent front brake lever, and that's ultimately what I'd be, I guess, content with. Like I said, I know this 19-inch front wheel doesn't have quite the braking torque. The brakes don't quite have the same torque over that wheel, basically. So you're not going to get the same bite you would with the Pikes Peak variant, with the older Multistradas, or with something like the Street Fighter or Panigale, even though they have the same 330 mil rotors and Stylema calipers. I know there's a different pad compound for the Panigale, but that's one of the reasons I know the front braking is diminished from what it could be. Now, compared to any other motorcycle, this is still phenomenal. I don't feel unsafe on this bike at any point. I've not quite gotten to that point where I would say it's even close to unsafe. But compared to what a Multistrada should be, compared to what this level of componentry should be, it just wasn't right. So let's go ahead and measure the brake pull now that we've gone ahead and done that. Our brake fluid for the front is resting right at the bottom with the bike on the center stand and the handlebars flat in my garage. It is resting right at the bottom of the max marker. So we will check that as well to see if that happens to go down or change at all. Like I said, I haven't really noticed any leaking, so I don't think there's much change for the fluid. I just think there's air getting in somewhere in this system. And I know I have not been able to cycle the ABS pump while doing this, and that's the way you're supposed to bleed these brakes. I don't have the computer to do that. We may end up taking to the dealership once just to start a warranty claim and see if they will cycle everything with the ABS pump and just see if they basically can do a full flush and they can verify that yes, the system has been bled, it is working appropriately, just to see if it again changes. I'm going to set the tip of this ruler, same ruler right in the same tip here, so it's a repeatable, verifiable process. We go ahead, this has been sitting for a few minutes, I'm going to go ahead and squeeze it. And we see the leading edge of the lever is about 2 1/4 is where we're sitting. And if I pump it again, I'm getting back to 2 1/4, and again 2 1/4 is repeatable. So at least, like I said, that's the consistency I want to see out of these brakes. And I really hope whatever air bubbles in here, whatever air is leaking in here, I hope it's just a bubble that's eventually going to come out. Again, I don't think it is. I think there's probably a deeper issue. I've known some other people, specifically KTM, some other European bikes, that when they have a really complex brake system, there's so many points of failure in it that they've had issues and end up having to kind of bypass ABS pumps and the whole works. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'll try and next time I ride it, activate the ABS a few times and get the bike, the radar cruise to activate the brakes, just so the bike, all the systems are functioning and cycling, just to hopefully get, you know, as much of this fluid moving around as we can, just to see what the problem is. Like I said, for anybody at home that has a V4 Multistrada, any of the years of it, any of the variants, if you don't mind, let me know kind of how far back your brake lever comes, what distance it comes back to, how close it comes on each pull, and if there's a buildup, if yours is doing the same thing that mine was, or if it's consistent each and every time. I would love to know that. I'd love to know this is a common thing with these Multistradas. Again, maybe with some of the different motors and ABS pumps and all those systems in here, maybe that's just a normal part of this bike. If it is, that'll be that. But if it's not, I'd really like to know that, just so I know I have a problem while I'm still covered under warranty and can hopefully do something about it. Thank you guys for watching 4K Motoring. Again, I'm Chris. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and like the video. Helps us out here. Lets us know what content you want to see. Hopefully we'll have a resolution to this soon. I'll check it in about a month, which will be about the time we go on our Austin, Texas trip, just to see where we are at the brake lever now that we've got measurements, and I'll let you guys know what we're finding. Again, let me know what you're finding with your own Multistradas and your own motorcycles to see what's normal, what's not for these bikes. Hopefully we'll have an answer soon and we'll get this figured out. Catch you next time. Ride safe.